Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Well, I'm finally going to do it. I know I've been talking for the last couple weeks about wanting to introduce a new car. However, due to California wanting to be, I'm gonna call it state fluid, in that it wants to identify as Oregon. It has been raining for the last couple weekends and I just really haven't been able to film much, otherwise we'd be getting soaked. But this week, I just said, you know what, forget it. It's gonna rain anyways, but I wanna debut this car for you because you've been so patient. And so, here it is. We actually picked up a Nissan 240Sx. It's a 95, so this is an S14. Mike actually picked up this car. This is his, but we're gonna be doing work on it on this channel. Basically, we spent a day at Streets of Willow, and he really wanted a track dedicated car. So originally we went looking for a Z car, ended up with an S chassis because they were about in the same price range. And so initially you bought this with the idea that it was gonna be a drift car. And then it turned into a track car because we had fun at Streets of Willow. And then now we're talking about maybe even just doing a street car build. So we have options. We're gonna talk about the actual final game plan for this car at the end of the video. The first thing I wanna do though is kind of walk you around this car because as you can see, it looks a little rough. This is your typical S chassis that you see for sale. The typical owners, you know, they didn't really know what they were doing. They were doing some weird stuff to it. So we are gonna have to do some repairs to the car to make it roadworthy, get it up to our basic specifications for what we'll tolerate for a car to be, and then we'll start modifying it to make it what it's gonna be in the very, very end. However, before we get to the video, two things. One, if you do like automotive, I guess I can say particularly Nissan content at this point, because we got the R32, the R35, and now we got the S chassis, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And two, if you'd like to support the channel, we do have the JD Archer shop. If you go to jdarcher.bigcartel.com, you can see a limited selection of t-shirts I've designed that are for sale. But with that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and kind of take you around this car, show you all the stuff that we spotted that we need to fix first, and talk about the overall plans for the car. The first place we want to start when talking about this car is with Mike here, since how it's gonna be his car. Now, originally, we started off looking at a 350Z.
Yeah.
And we took a look at a few of them. They were all kind of rough. I mean, probably about the same condition as this. In the end, why did you end up abandoning the 350 to go with the S chassis?
I mean, as with most things related to cars, it was primarily a monetary decision that I was making. I had driven a G35 for years, which is the same platform as a 350 for the most part. Some key differences, not the same car, but they're very similar. And after we did that Streets of Willow day, I'm like, I gotta build me a track car. And I wanted a drift car before that, but I'm like, no, I want a drift car. So I decided to keep it in the Nissan family. 350s are about the price range I was looking at least before the market went nuts. So I was like, well, I can't afford a 240. These things are notoriously overpriced. You know, 370s are still a little too high, but 350s, that's sweet spot. So I think I'll grab that. You see track cars for those all the time. Unfortunately, turns out you can't find one of those for a reasonable price that isn't just completely destroyed, as we saw on multiple we looked at.
Well, also too, you're looking for a specific one. You're looking for the 07?
The 07 or 08 with the HR motor.
engine, yeah.
Because the HR motors are much more reliable and can take a lot more power. The DE motors, great motors, but as soon as you start putting any power to them, the internals just let go. So.
Now, I remember we were having a conversation because we just took a look at the, that one guy had the 350, and I spotted like, it's been marked by junkyard parts.
Yeah.
And like he had like the 6-buck clutch for absolutely no reason.
That was the tune, the pop tune on there and everything.
It was horrible. And I remember we were sitting in your car, we just finished looking, I'm like, dude, how come you're not looking at S chassis? And you're just like, the price.
The price, yeah. My budget at the time, we were sitting around $8,000 is what I was looking to burn. And I thought $8,000, you should get a 350. I guarantee all of you will say the same. Oh, you should probably get a 350 for $8,000. Important to remember, we are in Los Angeles, and that means everything's a little more expensive. And at the time, every 240 I'd seen was like 15, 16 grand. Yeah. I'm like, I'm just not paying that much money for a car that I'm gonna throw on a track. And then, we kept just seeing crappy, crappy 350. Now, if I went with the DE, we'd got one for like 4 grand, but then I'd had to rebuild everything. Yeah,
and so, you really can't swap out the engine.
Well, yeah, the engine's not a simple swap. You have to replace a lot to get that engine changed out. I mean, you can tell the body's different on those. So, yeah, I've decided, okay, I'll go up to 10,000. I remember saying that. Yeah. And you're like, well, why don't you look at an S chassis? I'm like, if you can find an S chassis in my price range that runs, sure. And it was like, what, 5 minutes later?
Yeah. Well, I remember telling you too, because I have actually had an experience with an S chassis. Back in the day, I had the FDRX7. And I was working on a kind of a regular basis. Ironically enough, the engine was the only thing that never gave me an issue on that car. Everything else gave me an issue, but the rotary engine was solid.
That's impressive.
And I was at a buddy's and I needed something from Home Depot. I don't remember what it was, or sorry, it probably was more like AutoZone. and I'm like, hey, I need to go. I need to borrow somebody's car. And so one of the guys was there. He's like, oh, take my 240. And I hopped in the 240. I'm like, okay, you know, even back then it was real popular. It was around like, probably around 2015, 2016. And I got like literally about 100 yards down the road, and I'm just like, I understand why people love this car. Like it drives the way a car should drive. It feels really good. And I remember telling you that. I'm like, yeah, let's go see if I find one. Yeah, I found this one, and like, let's go take a look. You're like, oh, you actually found one.
Yeah. I think he had it up for 9,000. It was like the day I think I told you that I'm up it to 10. You know, let's still look at this. It's $9,000. And I was like, well, it runs. Well, sure. You know, I've never driven one at the time. For me, I was in that same boat where it's like, everyone says it's awesome. I'm sure they're great cars, but we'll see. And so we went and looked at it, and as soon as I got around the road, about 100 yards, driving down the road, I'm like, this is planted. I like the visibility. It just it feels good. This one sounds good, but that's the exhaust. And I was like, all right, yeah, I get that. And then we went back, and I'm like, well, let's see if we can talk them down. And of course, we ended up talking them down to 8,000, which was my original budget. So all in all, especially for what we paid, considering what I've seen ones that cost more that have no engine or are just literally rusted out, I'm pretty pleased with what we got, but it's gonna need a lot of work.
Yeah, and I know that I was feeling guilty. I'm like, oh God, did I talk him into, because I know you were so sold on that 350. I'm like, did I just talk him into a car because I like it? And then,
well, the thing is, now I can still go get a 350, but I can spend $4,000 on like a 03 DE motor and just putz around with it, not worry about power, and this will be the one that we build for a track. So, well,
you've told me many times, so you're like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, I've driven this. I love driving this car, even with the issues it currently has. You know, like you seem like you're very happy with it.
Oh, absolutely. I've been driving it until a couple of days ago. I've been driving it quite a bit, but it needs some work, which we'll go over. And I think it's got a ton of potential, ton of work, but I mean, a lot of content for you guys.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's go and get to that. Let's go and just start at the front of the car and just work our way back, and then we just go over everything that needs to be addressed right away, some things that need to be addressed in the future, and then when we're done with all that, we'll walk you through what your final overall goal and plan for the car is when it's going to be done.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. We're going to start here with the exterior because obviously that's the first thing you see. Now, as you can see, this body is a little bit rough. New paint is in order. Front bumper's not too bad. Some of the blinkers are actually broken on the other side, and the fog lights are missing. This carbon fiber hood does fit flush, but there's nothing holding it down aside from the hood pins, which are currently out. So I think there's going to be a changeover to some sort of better hood because this one's got clear coat issues and it's just obviously been pretty thrashed. There is some small dents here in the body. You can see them, especially because it's black, I believe. Are you going to just replace the fender, or are you going to go with carbon fiber?
We're definitely going to be replacing the fender. As for if I go with a carbon fiber fender versus just getting another aluminum or whatever, that'll come down to money. Okay.
Now, interestingly enough, this car did come with some aftermarket wheels. The guy went way too wide with them, though. Whenever you hit a bump, they do rub and scrape, and when you turn the wheels, so you're going to be picking up some better fitting wheels. We're not going to be doing any stance or anything like that.
No, I am
proper wheels.
Actively hunting for the wheels I want, but they're difficult to find.
Then moving around here, now the driver door, there is some alignment issues. Now apparently this is a very common issue with the S14 because the door is so long. So we're going to be doing a video on that in the future. As you can see, there's some pretty big gapping right here, very tight right here, and for some reason the piece that holds the door to keep it from flinging open is just missing, so we're going to have to pick up that. So the door just opens up way too wide. As you can see, no control, which is where I believe this little dent came from. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to fix that. So some aftermarket doors or some replacement doors are
new skin, if nothing else. Yeah, I've also just seen they know that because the door isn't sitting correctly from inside, you can actually see sunlight through right here.
Oh wow!
So it doesn't seem right at all.
Now the rear view mirrors we discovered, the surround is just kind of wobbling there. I believe it's just missing some screws. That should be a very quick and easy fix. Moving around, as you can see, once again, the tire is too wide. You can see where it's been rubbing on the body, so that's just a major issue.
Yeah. Nice little Instagram sticker, follow.
There we go. Now we're going to follow PXDN Ninja. As you can see, we're starting to get some of that rain we were talking about earlier. This is broken off now. You've been talking about you're just going to shave that, fill it, so it's just a clean body.
Yeah, that's just for radio, and I don't plan on having FM AM radio as my main form of entertainment in here.
Well, most people stream through their phones anyway.
Exactly.
Coming around to the back, as you can see, we continue to have some paint issues, some body issues. For some reason, this wing really wobbly, even though it looks like it's solidly mounted from the inside. I don't know if that's a common issue, so if anybody who's watching this has an S chassis, let us know if that's common. Like, it's just the metal really thin on the trunk and that's what's causing this. Ironically enough, it has the Apexi exhaust, the same one that you actually had in your garage.
Or the HKS exhaust,
or HKS, that you actually had in your garage and you sold and it came with it. That was kind of funny. My biggest concern with the body is this right here.
Yeah.
As you can see, the fitment is really bad. I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't look like it was hit there, but it's definitely off. What I'm hoping is once we take these taillights off, I think you're going to replace it with some Koki taillights. Yep. Maybe we can see if there's like some bent tabs or something and can fix that. Of course, coming through here, looks like everything's still pretty solid. Same issue with the wheels. Just more paint issues that we have to deal with. Here, the rear view mirror is actually on the solid. And as you can see, you know, this front bumper is pretty much just done. But there is a plan for that in the future, and we will talk about that when we talk about the future plans for the car. Moving on, let's talk about the engine bay. Now, there has been some work already done by the engine bay by us. This California rain thing is kind of causing us to film out of sequence, and I wanted to make sure the car was solid for Mike if he's going to be driving it around. The main thing is being that the wires we've already replaced. It came with wires, we're not sure how old they were, but they were multiple types of brands.
Yeah.
And so at least now we have the same brand all the way around. Kind of cleaned up the engine bay really good with this NGK. We also replaced the spark plugs. But there's still some stuff we need to do. The big thing being is that the timing. Now, we attempted to get it timed. You'll see it in the other video once I upload it next week, where you rotate the distributor. We couldn't get it timed properly. Now, I did some research, and apparently it's because whoever did the timing chain, I love the fact that this has a timing chain instead of a belt. When you finish doing the job, you're supposed to rotate the chain through because a lot of times the marks will not line up after that, and you have to redo it. My guess is the guy got lazy, and so it's very common if the idler pulley or the idler sprocket on the chain is off, you can't get it timed properly. So he's got kind of a pop and bang tune, kind of like the poor man's way without actually doing it with the fuel curve, so it's just the bad timing. Also, he was driving the other day, and as you can see, the radiator fan fell off. So we're going to be getting that all fixed up and ready for him to go. I've already taken a look at it. I have a plan for that. That'll be on an upcoming video. But yeah, so the engine at least is solid as far as we can tell. It runs strong, despite the fact that it's got some bad timing. So there's little things that we're going to do here and there. And perhaps in the future, I might talk him into doing an SR20 swap. We'll see what happens.
Arrow talking me into it on that. I would love to do that.
So an SR20 swap is on the agenda. Moving on to the interior of the car, there's going to be a lot of work here, and a bit of a spoiler alert, we've already done some work. You will see it in the video next week. As we said, the rain here is kind of causing us to film out of order. So we've already swapped out the stock steering wheel for the Sparco L999 wheel, which is actually my favorite wheel. I've had it on both of my Supras.
I love it.
We also did the blinker because that one was just flat out broken.
Yeah, the high beam was not working, so if I turned my blinker on, I also high beamed whoever was in front of me.
So there's already been some work on that. Now there has been some issues. The gauge cluster just doesn't work, the tach and the speedo, so we're gonna have to do some investigation as to why that's happening. Seats are pretty shot, but that's fine because I believe some aftermarket seats are in the agenda, and we will talk about that. Now, of course, this is a typical S chassis and suffers from the S chassis cracked dash. I have yet to see an S chassis that doesn't have that issue unless it's like a primo clean one. Moving into the back seats, also pretty dead. So there's going to be a little bit of work there. We might tub the car, we might just set it up for street. So it all depends on that. But other than that, it does have most of the trim pieces, which are nice because those are kind of hard to find. Looks like we will need to get a new, basically shift boots and install that. But other than that, aside from the seats and some cosmetics things, it's pretty darn set. As you can see down there in the footwell, there is a power block. There's probably going to be yards and yards of wiring we're going to have to remove. But that's pretty standard whenever you get any type of car that you didn't work on.
Yeah.
And here's what I was talking about, where the piece just isn't hooked up that controls the door. We do have a new one of those on order, so we'll get that installed so the doors will work properly. That was pretty much the majority of the major issues we've seen with this car. Of course, there are going to be some other little things that we're going to find along the way that we're going to have to fix as well. So talking about what are some of the things that we need to take care of first. Obviously, making sure the engine's good, doing the spark plugs, spark plug wires, getting that timing right because we both hate pops and bangs. I think just kind of taking care of that interior just a little bit, just so it's more comfortable. And then we can start turning our attention to everything that kind of makes it pretty.
Right. The big things, like you said, yeah, servicing it is obviously a critical thing we need to do. You said spark plugs, oil, just to make sure we know the current starting platform we're at. Wheels and tires are a must, because we gotta get rid of that. And another big thing, which we haven't actually mentioned, is the car does currently have a welded diff. So that's a little tricky, but I mean, if we want to make it a drift car, then that's, you know, score, we got it. But I don't want to make this a drift car, though some of our friends are really, really pushing me to, so before we fix it, we may take it out on the skid pad. We may have some fun. But that's definitely something going to where I ultimately want it to be. We're gonna have to get a new diff for it as well. Those are really the critical things for reliability and for just comfort of driving. And the suspension potentially needs work, but until we get the wheels fixed, we don't know.
Exactly, you know, it is on coilovers. It does have adjustable hi-hats, which is kind of cool, which means you can really get your camber dialed in how you want it.
Yeah, it's a good suspension kit, but like everything else with this car, they might have half-assed it. We don't know. We'll see. It could have been done wrong, or it could just be a bad part. So we'll figure that out.
So pretty much once we get those things taken care of, we can start turning our attention to modifying. So what is, because we're finally getting to that point, what is the plan for the car? What do you want this car to be? What do you want it to look like? What is kind of like your shopping list of your modification parts?
So for that, there's kind of two aspects to what I plan on doing with this. There's the exterior, the visual modifications, and the interior drivability, engine power, and such like that. Right now, the focus is going to be getting it driving reliably and such. Eventually I want to get some, Sparco racing seats put in. I don't know if I'm going to keep the back seats in or rip those out. I haven't decided fully on that yet.
Okay.
Potentially putting a cage in on that. Eventually it probably will get caged if my skill on a track gets good enough, but it's not one of the early things that's way down the list.
So then are you going to basically build up the interior for more of a show car with the idea in the future you might tub it, or are you going to just go straight to the tub?
Yeah. It's going to be performance purpose, not like visual purpose, outside of like an Alcantara cover for the dash and stuff. It's going to be a lot of stuff going into just to make it lighter weight, cleaner, like potentially I was talking to you about the carbon fiber door cards possibly. Small things just to make it a little nicer to be in, but also with a performance consideration. The external is where things will get a little flashy. So we're going to be, big thing is the body kit. Obviously I got to get a body kit. And the body kit we're getting is the Endless Zeal, I forget the full name of it.
South Beach?
Something along those lines. It gets a different name depending on which website you look at. The key thing to consider is it's the body kit that was on Letty's 240 in the first Fast and Furious movie. Speaking of which, we're actually getting a perfect scan of the front bumper. A mutual friend of ours, a guy named Shahar, has a buddy that owns the hero car from Fast and Furious.
So it's not a replica. He has the actual car from the movie.
With the screen used body kit. And apparently finding the front bumper is impossible. There was a place locally that can make them. They broke the mold, so they can't make them anymore. But because Shahar knows this guy, we're going to get another company to go out there, 3D scan it with lasers, and then they're going to build, I say a one-off, but like 5 of us are buying them, so we'll have 5 off, I guess. And then we already have a lead where we can get the rest of the body kit. So we're going to be doing that. Hopefully in the next couple of months, that'll come in.
Oh, wow, that's soon.
Yeah, they're thinking about 6 to 8 weeks for scan and production. And then, of course, wheels and tires. Again, we're going to be going with the Advan Model 5s. Again, because that's what Letty had on her 240, and they look phenomenal.
Now, the funny thing with these wheels is, because we've obviously had this car for a while, both Mike and I have been researching online, we can find the proper diameter and the proper size. Where we're running into issues
Cannot find the offset.
The offset. They all seem to be plus 45s, you need plus 10s.
10s.
So if anybody's watching this and you have a set, or you know somebody who has a set, I believe we're looking for 18 by 9 by 9 or 9.5, and then the offset is a positive 10. Send me a message, send Mike a message at PXD Ninja on Instagram. Let them know where those are so we can kind of get moving on the build.
Because that's one of the biggest things kind of holding us up right now. But once we get the wheels and that body kit, probably replace these fenders, replace the hood. Now the hood, I'm not going with like the screen style that Letty had.
She just had the standard Koki hood.
But also theirs was just used for driving around. This will be on a track, so I'm probably going to get a vented hood just to help with heat dissipation, especially after what I've read about the GTRs on track. They have a heat issue. So it's something now I'm just like, this probably wouldn't have much of a problem with this motor, but better safe than sorry, and it'll look cooler. So we're going to throw that on there. I think I'm going to keep hood pins. I like the style with the hood pins, but we're going to replace these pins because they're crap. And then it comes down to, the back end, we are going to go through and do the cookie conversion to that.
Okay.
Get the right, I forget what the spoiler is we're looking for, but again.
Oh, APR GT, it might be GT1 or GT2.
Yeah, I can't remember which. Whichever one Letty had.
Which is out of print because actually APR is having a problem with everybody copying their aluminum wings, so they went to straight carbon fiber.
Yep.
So there again, we're going to be looking for an older part.
A lot of old parts trying to find, or a perfect replica. Who knows if we can find that. And then, yeah, paint and vinyl, and the whole thing ultimately on the outside is going to be a tribute to that Letty 240.
So we're building a tribute car. We're not going to be building an exact replica. So don't basically kill us if like, oh, you know, this is, you know, the interior is different. Or
yeah, the interior is going to be completely different. The interior is taking no intentional cues from Letty's 240. Now I might pick a part that she used, but it'll be a happenstance. It won't be like I'm doing it because of that.
Now, funny thing about that is, so we were just talking about this before. If you go back and watch the first Fast and Furious movie, the 240 changes quite a bit depending on which scene you're looking at.
Which part of which scene you're looking at.
Yeah. So like when she's in the car and she's pulling up to the stop line at Race Wars, she's got Sparko seats, but during the actual race, she's got like stock like Honda Civic seats or something
it's
like that.
Not even a 240 that she's driving.
So there's no real reason to be screen accurate with that because, well, the screen accuracy changed on such a regular basis. But so kind of like what Throttle did with their Supra and their Clips, they kind of built what the car would have been if it was built today with today's technology, because the technology is so much better now.
But with the early 2000s styling, so it'll have the vinyl, it'll be the purple paint.
We should probably talk about the paint because you were going to talk to the guy who has the hero car, or there's also another guy who found one of the cars that was a stunt car that had been changed for Too Fast, Too Furious.
I believe so, yeah.
And he actually managed to get a sampling of the original paint, so he has that paint code. So you might be able to contact that guy.
We're going to be able to hopefully get the exact paint, and the idea will be to paint the car, so not do a full vinyl wrap. But then we'll vinyl all the vinyl decals and clear coat over the whole thing. So it won't be changing from a Letty car without a lot of work. But that's the plan, is to keep it looking like that and be street drivable, but also be able to tear the track up at streets of Aurora.
There we go. So that's pretty much the whole plan for the car. So keep tuning into the channel so you can see us slowly get the car more roadworthy and then finally get it modified to basically give it that Letty look. We're talking about doing an SR20 swap. We've already started doing research on that. And we're gonna do it the right way. So no half-ass, no Home Depot stuff. We're gonna do it right. So just kind of keep checking back with us and see how this car grows. Yep. And there it is, the car that I've been teasing you with for the last 2 weeks. I finally debuted for you, Mike's 240Sx. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go hit that thumbs up button to let me know. It does help the channel out a lot. Now, if you do want to see the evolution of this car as we take it in its current condition and transform it into something else, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There will be regular updates and work done on this car. Now, if you have any questions, any comments, some ideas of what we should do to the car, or even some connections where we can get some of those rarer, older pieces, go and post in the comment section down below. I will respond to you. I thank you all for watching, and until next time, forget everything else, focus on the finish line.